Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of This Dude Started Something. Today on the show, we're joined by the visionaries behind Longbow Motors, a British startup aiming to redefine electric sports cars.
With roots in Tesla and Lucid, they're introducing the world's first featherweight electric vehicles that promise agility, performance, and a nod to classic British motoring. Today on the podcast, we have Mark Tapscott and Daniel Davey.
How you guys doing?
Good. How you doing, Braden? Hey, Oliver.
We're doing great. Really appreciate you guys for being here. First question, we obviously did our research on you guys. We know you guys have experience in Tesla and Lucid, but for our listeners out there, can you guys each go back and dive into a little bit of your background and how this company came about and your guys' experiences throughout it all?
First of all, thanks for the intro, by the way, gents. You do probably a better job than we do most of the time. I think we need to take some of those lines from you guys. Thank you for that intro. Daniel.
Thank you.
Yeah, where do we start? I guess my first job really was working for Tesla. So I jumped out of airplanes like for the reserves, and then first job after that was working for Tesla out in kind of Palo Alto. Employee 650, so super early, so 2010. When if you wanted to charge a car, you had to run an extension cord out of the window of your hotel room and like get free electricity that way. And then that was UK, Germany, and then moved from there into kind of other Silicon Valley companies, so more in tech, and then in mobility with Uber early on. So kind of as a theme, I like kind of scrappy. When you see like a company's in the headline for bad things, that's normally while I'm there. It's not,
Is it your
well,
fault?
it's not me. It's not causation, but like, I don't think it's me. And then came back to Tesla when Tesla was in the bad press for Elon sleeping on the factory, obviously, of course. And then from there was the first employer, Lucid Motors, outside of kind of North America. So I was launching the whole European business for Lucid, and the Middle East business as well, getting that on its feet. And during all of that, Mark and I just had such a passion for the start of electric mobility, was the kind of Tesla Roadster days, because even that car was, quite compromised. It was just super cool. And now it's a lightweight electric sports car. And we haven't seen anyone else come into the market since then. And we were like, well, if no one else is going to do it, we've actually got the experience to do this, and we're crazy enough. So we'll give it a go. We think we know how to do this.
Yeah. So you worked really close with Elon then while you were at Tesla?
I don't know how close anyone can work to Elon, right?
That's true. That's true. But
There's
you've
maybe,
spoken to him, correct?
yeah, absolutely. Been in
Yeah.
meetings. Mark as well, right? We overlap quite a bit.
Both of you guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And you said you were first employee at Lucid?
Outside of North America. Yeah.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
was the
Wow, that is
first
crazy.
US employee, yeah.
And
Yeah.
where's Lucid at right now? Like, how are they doing?
I mean, Lucid's got the best tech in the world, right? Like Lucid's electric motors, Lucid's drivetrain technology is the best. You could argue the Lucid Air is the best sedan in the world. They just launched a Gravity, and you could argue that's the best SUV in the world. So I think Lucid has done a really good job of where everyone said, these manufacturers or these companies are the best. I think Lucid's done a really good job of coming in there and saying, hold my beer. We've got a better
Yeah.
powertrain, we've got better vehicles, and it's a car company. People who run Lucid are real car people. They know what it takes. So automotive journalists love them. Customers love how the cars drive. So yeah, Lucid's cool. This is a great company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of them, and they caught my eye. I was like, I didn't really like hear about that company, and then I saw one of the cars, and I was like, wait, that's crazy. You know what I mean? It's kind
Yeah.
of like head to head with Tesla, and But
Yeah.
Mark, what about you? Where did you what was the first company you got with, and what was that experience like?
Wow. Well, I mean, first of all, like, why build a car company? It is not a smart or easy thing to do at all. I think anyone will tell you that same thing. So whilst we've got some good answers for why we are doing it. A lot of it based in numbers and engineering and everything else that sits behind it. Ultimately, it's because we're car guys and we couldn't not do this. I think that's the thing that's also keeping this going over the last few years that we've been putting all the effort and energy into it is we really believe in it. We want to make it happen and we can't put this down. And I think one of the great things we've had recently now being able to show what we're doing is meeting a whole load of other car guys and girls out there. And it's that passion piece that I think is really, really cool with it all. So I, of course, have a car guy story that sits behind all of this. I won't go into all of the details, but I think it's an important part of why we're doing what we're doing because I studied design engineering because I loved kind of taking things apart when I was a kid and understanding how they worked. Got into motorbikes, realized those things were pretty dangerous and four wheels was probably a little bit safer. And then left university and went into lighting consultancy and set that up. And it was really cool, enjoyed it, had a great time doing that, but it wasn't kind of my passion. So I then spent time going around to all the race circuits, speaking to the various racing teams that I thought were doing really well at the time, and said, hey, look, I can design stuff. I can do engineering. How about we do a swap here? You teach me how to run racing cars and build a racing team, and I'll help build and design parts of your cars with you. So that's how it all started. Did that, worked through, then started my own racing team, building the cars. And that all really came from a point of my dad actually taking me to a race circuit in the UK called Brands Hatch. And I remember we were stood up there. I was probably about 11 or 12 or so. My dad took me along to this race circuit for the first time. And we watched a McLaren F1 kind of come all the way down the straights. And it made a completely different sound, totally different to everything else on the track at that time. And I remember looking up at my dad and his mouth was just down, his jaw was down. And I think even as a young kid at that point, I said, right, one day I want to do something that my dad's going to look at and look the same way. So I think that was it. I was stuck from that young age of having to do something to do with automotive and cars and build something really cool. Fast forward a little bit on from there after the whole racing piece, I felt like doing something more than designing race cars, which was super cool. Loved it. Worked with my friends, traveled all of Europe. It was great. But then I felt there probably needs to be something of more substance behind this. And that's when a friend also had a Tesla Roadster at the time. And I'll be very honest, electric cars back then didn't really capture me. So today, when people still say EVs, will it be as exciting? Yes, we can make it exciting. There's a big part of what we're doing around theatre in the vehicles as well. But at the time, I had the same views, sat in that Tesla Roadster, and then from that point, I realized electrification is the future. Like EVs can be cool, fast, fun, interesting things. Couple of emails then off to Tesla at the time, as Daniel mentioned, then spending time with Elon, launching Tesla in Europe, then spent time again with Daniel, Lucid as well, and then launching a few other EV brands in between. But nobody in that entire time that we've both been in the industry now has done what Tesla did, which was bring out that kind of exciting, lightweight electric sports car. So it's fallen upon us over the last few years to now make that happen.
Yeah. I was going to ask, have you had that moment with your pops yet, with your dad, that you just, where he was like super impressed with what you're doing and you made his jaw drop? And you know what I mean? Have you had that moment with him?
It's difficult to say something like this, right? I think we all have our views on our parents when we're growing up, and it's a big part of my life. But I'm waiting for the moment where we put him behind the wheel of the car. So we want to make sure, perhaps a little different to other automotive brands, customers come first for us. And it's our customers and reservation holders that are going to get to drive the final vehicle before anyone else. But I might try and slip my dad in just before that so he gets a drive. And it's hopefully that moment that I'll hopefully see his jaw drop.
That would be cool. Yeah, that's an awesome story.
So,
Oliver.
Yeah, I might be getting like ahead of myself here. And obviously we're going to go through like building the company and all that. But where are you guys at in the process right now with your two models out there? Are there drivable versions yet? Or like, have you guys actually been behind the wheel?
Yeah, the most important thing is putting cars on the road, right? Like a lot of people have said they're going to build a car company and haven't, right? I don't need to list the companies here or the cars here. And so we've been like hyper conscious about that. Actually, the reason we went out a month ago was because we had this incredible opportunity with Top Gear. You know, we spoke to them and they said, look, we want to tell you a story. And that's why we kind of came out and showed everyone what we were doing, right? We showed the Speedster, the Roadster, we kind of showed the performance stats and prices and that kind of stuff. And so now the focus is laser focused on getting that first car on the road. So we do have a tech demonstrator. So it's this crazy 400 kilogram, 90 horsepower weapon that's just terrifying to drive. And we haven't shown anyone that, but that's kind of like the proof of concept that this lightweight powertrain works and that the driving characteristics of this car are just going to be insane. And then what we're working on now is the summer vehicle, right? So in summer, we'll have a car that we want to do some really interesting things with as our first car, right? So like a lot of people come and they just show this static piece of art and they're like, build cars, but we don't want to do that. So we want to show something that's a real car, like that does things that are quite impressive, even as your first kind of demonstrator vehicle.
There's a lot of skepticism out there, right? Especially around EV. I think the term vaporware gets thrown around our industry probably more than most. And we accept that, right? We know we need to work against that piece. So a lot of the forums and all of the great press we've had, people are saying, you know, the light-weighted part of EV, it can't be done. And I think, as Daniel says there, we haven't really shown what we have been working on for the past few years. But you know, we know that there's a car driving around in that we've been in that's at 398 kilos or so. So there's a bit of stuff we're holding back there to then be able to show that, look, this isn't vaporware for us. We've done all of the hard work and the engineering behind it. Now you're actually just seeing the prettier end of things, but everything really starts towards the end of the summer.
So let's go back to the beginning. It wasn't called Longbow at first, was it? I believe it was something else. And like, tell us a little bit about that, how you guys just started and who you actually had building the car, who designed it, and how all that works.
Yeah, how far back do we go? Do we go back to lightweight sports car conversion days, Mark? I think so.
All part of the story, right?
So we were actually approached by a brand, like I'd say a heritage brand that wanted to go electric. And we were quite excited about that, right? An existing brand, a iconic car, making it go electric. And this was maybe 5 years ago now, a little bit longer. And so we went through a whole piece of work of like, how do you make this car electric? What's the business plan look like? How do you build the brand around it? How do you do the engineering? And what we realized is a lot of these maybe heritage brands don't have the kind of leadership or the kind of traceability that we like. So anything that we put our names to has to have a level of authenticity and trust to it, right? Like we put ourselves out there, right? People can because we have a brand in the market already. And we didn't want to associate with some of these companies. And so we went through a couple of iterations of that, and we saw a theme emerging, which is we developed rules now. We call it like the essence of Longbow, which are our kind of underlying principles that we live by when we make decisions and as a company. And one of them is you build your brand, you don't borrow it. And that's from these experiences. So we went through this journey, and it wasn't a technical problem. The problem was, and it wasn't even necessarily a branding problem. It was a like authenticity and integrity problem that we saw working with some of those brands. And the only solution, right, is you build your brand, you don't build it. So you build your brand, you don't borrow it, right? So that led to Ether Motors. So the first version of Longbow, while we were in stealth, was called Ether Motors. And that was our own brand, vehicle from scratch, with all the lessons we'd learned over the kind of previous 2 and a bit years, and us owning it and doing it the way we want to do it and the way we know it needs to be done.
Ether, the name, it's the fifth element. And so what we wanted to do was we needed to be in stealth because of, as I've just mentioned, the whole vaporware issue that's within our industry. So we want something that wasn't, of course, our final brand, but also represented what we thought was really important in what we were building. So ether, being the fifth element, sits among all of the others, so fire, earth, the other powers, and it's the one that brings all of those elements together. And we always thought of ether as, you know, the driving experience. So whilst you've got power from the motor, you've got the materials that sit there from earth, it's the driver that sits in the middle of all of that that is the most important part. So that's why we chose ether, and also coming from the ether, and now we've launched as Longbow, of course. And that name also has a story.
What's the story? If you mind, do you mind sharing the story behind Longbow?
Go for Mark.
We're a British brand, but we want to be British but international. So I think when we've always talked about where do you need to be if you're an international sports car company, I think there are a few countries and places that have really done it very well. Germany, of course, with some of their brands. America, you're representing one there, of course, Oliver, on your shirt. But the UK has a really long history of producing exciting lightweight sports cars. You know, with companies like Lotus and Morgan and others that sit within there. And it also has, of course, Formula One. The majority of teams are based in the UK, Formula E as well. So there's a really rich history of a lot of talent, and also the supply chain engineering and knowledge all sits within the UK. So we are British. We don't have any kind of sexy Italian or German names or something like that we could use. So we go with the whole British piece, and we want to lean into that. We think there's a big part of British engineering that's maybe not as good as talking about itself as it should be. You guys demonstrated that with our intro even today. So we're building Longbow. Longbow is, of course, the weapon that was used many years ago as the thing that helped UK or the British win many of the wars. But the Longbow itself, being a great weapon, is only as good as the archer that uses it. And again, this comes back to, we can build a great car, but it's also very much about the driver that sits behind the wheel that makes the Longbow, makes the car the experience that it is.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah,
and there's a whole lot of craftsmanship, of course, that goes into building a Longbow that we want to lean into with what are, of course, hand-built British cars.
Yeah, that's a perfect name, honestly. I had a question. So you guys have been like working together for quite a while now. I feel like you've kind of jumped place to place with each other. You've been on the same path, same journey. At what point did you know like you guys work really good together? Like you guys are going to be partners and you're going to tackle this thing together?
Still working that out, I think.
Yeah.
I think, anyone, if you really want to have a great business partner, you need to be kind of morally and ethically aligned, right? So the way you handle a situation, the way you handle a discussion, and the way you handle like even falling out, you have to be super aligned on it, right? Like I'm married. I've been married 11 years. That only works because we're morally and ethically aligned, right? And we have mutual respect. I think the same is true for business partner. So, of course, we're not always kind to each other. I'm more guilty of that than Mark is probably. Mark is like one of the coolest cucumbers when like there's any kind of stress or disagreements. But yeah, I think that's it. And to answer your question, I think you figure out pretty early on, right? When you meet someone new and you just get on, and then the more you dig in, you're like, I really like this person. And then all of a sudden, sometimes you're like, whoa, I don't like that. This was all great, but this is like a hard no.
Yeah.
We haven't had that. And so I think and it makes everything a lot easier, certainly for me.
Yeah.
Hopefully Mark's not sitting around, so.
Yeah, Mark's like, nah.
Look, we disagree on a lot of things, but I think that's really healthy. But that disagreement is usually only on a sort of a surface level. And I think, as Daniel says there, it's the deep moral compass or guidance that you notice in someone else. And we've had the fortune as well, of course, you mentioned working at other stressful startups where, especially when you've got a lot of international flavors all mixing and different moral standings on certain things, you get to see how the other person reacts. And I think certainly working with Daniel and a few other people I've had the fortune of working with at those companies as well, they've always stood firm on their morals rather than maybe just following a company line that isn't appropriate. So I've seen that in Daniel. And also I think what really helps us, apart from having sat down, as Daniel says, over a couple of bottles of wine, coming up with our list of things that we have to run the company by, is that we operate under radical candor. And I think everyone always talks about radical candor and that's how we operate. But I think we've seen very few people that actually operate with radical candor. So we can have really frank discussions with each other and we know that it's all objective driven. Trying to remove that emotion from it as much as possible is difficult when you're kind of dealing with something that is emotion. It's, it's a sexy car. That's what we're trying to put together. But always sticking to radical candor, speaking clearly, and being objective with things. I think we're just really clear with each other on those things.
Yeah. So with that mindset, is it safe to say that you two, or that there's like, it's just you two or a very limited investor pool when it comes to this company?
Yeah, I mean, we have a third co-founder, Jenny. So Jenny Kaiser, who's Swedish, and she's incredible. So she's chairman of the board. She joined us over a year ago, like a year and a half ago, where before that she led Exshore. So from like nothing through to delivering 2 different platforms, multiple fundraising rounds, and the whole radical candor piece and working well together. Like Jenny's part of our founding team. We then have a great board of advisors that we're going to be announcing soon, but just like really, just really incredible, really smart, really cool people on our advisory board. And then it's working with externals. So right now we're ramping up our internal team, but we don't want to build a huge kind of procrastinating, multi-tiered political OEM, right? It's 2025. You don't need to do that. You can, and we've seen where layers and not great people can actually slow you down, right? It's better to have 5 great people, like great people, than 30 people that are just good. So, we will be really selective in who we bring on board and even selective with the external partners we work with, right? So do we need a design team in-house? No, we work with best-in-class like design agencies, and same thing for engineering and other parts, right? Does that need to be in-house? No, it doesn't. And so we actually look at the other ways, like if we have to hire someone, right, and get them up to speed and get them productive and have that period of uncertainty where we don't know if they're going to be great at the end, actually sometimes it's better working with an external is great, but you can hold accountable and responsible for their actions, and then we kind of conduct the orchestra. And I think that's our view of how the company is built, right? Like building super elite systems in how you manage program management and tasks and how you manage like your customer systems, and then building the smallest company we can build to deliver on our mission, not how do we burn loads of cash and hire loads of people and kind of chase ourselves before we run out of money on a burn rate, right? Like we have a very different view of that.
Definitely.
Something I think we pulled from Tesla as well. And I'm not sure whether this is appropriate for your audience or not, but one of the key tenets is don't work with dickheads. Don't be a dick and don't work with dickheads were 2 things that were written down and we learned from Tesla. And I think that sounds like an easy thing to apply, but it takes some time to get to a position where you understand whether someone is going to operate in that way or not. But as Daniel says, we've got literally the opportunity to, over the last decade, work with, learn from, and get to know some of the best people in the industry. So we are really, really fortunate that we have already worked with a lot of people. So we know how they perform, we know what they can do, and we can choose the best and bring them in to get it done. And that's why we have this sort of the film studio analogy of how we're building the company.
Yeah, that's a smart way to do it, is to keep it small. We can move on to the actual vehicles now. That's cool with you guys. You guys have 2 models coming out, the Speedster and the Roadster. What car that came before inspired the vision, or is this just a completely new concept?
My dad was a soldier. Like I had 3 siblings. We didn't have much money. So I used to have posters of cars on my walls and Virago models. And I used to be a nerd and like paint car models and stuff. And so, and I'm pretty sure I'm a lot older than you guys, but like, so for me, cars are like late 70s, 80s through to early 90s, like those kind of cars, which were just cool. Technology was really ramping up and they were getting a lot faster really quickly, but they still had this kind of like really cool design uniqueness to them. And then after that, kind of large corporates took over and they squeezed all of the joy and profit and design out of cars and made them more like compliant and better do Nürburgring lap records time. So that kind of golden age of design, I'd say kind of like late 60s through to early 90s, like those kind of cars where they could be so radically different. That's where we draw inspiration from, right? Like for us, there's a focus on beauty, connectivity, and authenticity. It's one of our pillars, not stats, right? So when you take it from that view, so we'll make compromises to make it more beautiful because it's more important. You kind of start to get our design language, right? Like we're not doing retro mods, so it's not going to be exactly like a car from the 70s.
Right.
But like long sweeping curves, simplistic body panels, like iconic kind of original colors. So like that kind of green. That's really where we draw inspiration, how we think about the products that we build, the cars we build.
Cars have been ruined by marketing teams adding all these features that we just don't want. I don't know who is asking for a car that can swim across a river, for example, but we're building it for some reason, right? I think especially when it comes to sports cars, well, let me take that back, right? No car is the best car, right? We shouldn't really be putting more and more cars on the road. And buying any car other than something that's 10 years old that does the job, that is the second best car you can get. So why are we buying the things we're buying? And I think for us, a sports car especially is a lot about a heart purchase, right? You're buying it because you really want it. So it needs to be something that you lust after, that's beautiful. Daniel's point about what cars are going onto kids' bedroom walls today, I'm not sure. But I think when you ask most people, like, what are beautiful cars to you? It goes back to that kind of 60s era. And that's where we get all of the curves and the kind of the muscularity and the femininity in certain areas of the vehicles that you don't see today because marketing teams and wind tunnels have got in the way. So that's why, as Daniel says, beauty and authenticity are really important for us. And I think that's what's been lost in sports cars recently, is creating something that you look at and go, I love it. I don't need to know how quickly that goes round the Nürburgring. It doesn't matter because it's beautiful. And every time I look at it in my garage, I'm glad I bought that car.
Yeah.
It's not like you're gonna see like a Prius on some kid's wall these days. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, cars are like, yeah, you're right. The marketing teams, everything have just ruined it, and it's like it's hard for me to believe that like we're gonna look back to this time period and be like, oh, those cars are so like retro and cool and like vintage. Like, no, I think we're past that point. Like, cars are just kind of lame nowadays, and so I love what you guys are doing, like focusing on the beauty of the car, the sexiness of it. It's a fire design. And I had a question. If I wanted to buy one in the US, I know you're talking about like being international and stuff. Is the steering wheel, is that easily moved to the left side? Because it's probably on the right side where you guys are at, right?
Yeah, from the beginning again, right? The mission changed how the Earth feels about sports cars. There's only a small part of the Earth that drives with the steering wheel on the right-hand side. So, like, for us to achieve our mission, you have to have steering wheel on both sides.
Yeah.
There was a point actually where we thought it'd be super cool just to have it on one side because that's kind of like authentic.
Yeah.
But objectively, more people will buy the car if there's steering wheel on both sides. So let's put steering wheel on both sides, right? Like, let's not make life difficult for customers just because we think it might be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I would drive it if it was legal here. I would drive it on the right side. That'd be cool. Would it be hard?
I think it is legal.
It is?
Yeah, but it's a pain. I've driven cars like UK and Europe, and because you can't overtake. So no, we make your life easy, Braden. You can get a steering wheel on the correct side for your country, right? Wherever your country.
I guess the mailman, like I see the mailman and he has one on the right side.
Yeah,
that's true.
I think that's for safety purposes. Yeah, for hopping.
Yeah.
That's actually our third vehicle, right? It's a mail truck. That's why I've done it.
Dude, that'd be so cool. I'd buy that for sure.
One of like the biggest complaints when it comes to EV cars is like it's quiet. Where's the noise? Like people that buy sports cars, I mean, you mentioned your dad when he heard the McLaren, like his jaw dropped. Like so much of it is like the noise. Have you guys thought about that aspect? Like some EV cars have put in like a speaker system of like fake exhaust. I know you guys aren't really about all the crazy add-ons, but just what's your take and how are you gonna um, you know, go about that?
We've probably got different answers on this, right? Like we've lived through that. So when you say people complain, like they used to complain to us with the Tesla Roadster, with Lucid, Model 3, all these things, people, as you say, I think rightly so, people talk about the sound. I think that's where people focus, but there's so much more to a car than the sound. And so we talk about theater, right? So when you turn on an ICE, like a sports car, it revs, right? So it doesn't have to do that. The car's creating theater. So there's a lot you can do to create theater in the car, right? Like your tactile controls, like instead of having big long hyper screens, having, you know, dials, like making it a bit more personal. So for us that and again, like a lot of people who design the EVs design it purely from an engineering mindset, not from a driver focus, right? We record ether as the fifth element, the driver in the center of the car. You have to create theater. And so from the beginning, we've been very keen on introducing like those theater elements. Like we can't dig in too much what that is, but it's not just sound, right? Like it's the car doing, when you get into it, instead of being like, is it on? You like you need to do the car needs to do something
Right.
back to you, right? It needs to give you, even like Furbies give you like a response, right? So if you're paying £100,000 for a car, it should give you some kind of acknowledgement when you're doing things to it, right? So um, I wouldn't say we've created a Furby strategy, but definitely for a car, like there needs to be some responsiveness.
Somebody asked me the other day, like, what is the most important part about the cars that we're building? I've already got two answers to that. First one is actually, it's not really about the cars in particular. You know, we are changing how the earth feels about sports cars by creating a whole new segment of the industry. So lightweighting is not the direction in which the entire industry is heading, but we think it's super important, not just for cars, but for actually all mobility, especially when we start looking at things like flying cars and everything else that people are getting excited about. Lightweightedness is the definitive path to achieving that. You know, of course, you improve everything in terms of the dynamics of the vehicle. There are safety aspects to it, materials, everything when you lightweight something. But the real answer to what I think the most important thing is, apart from that whole part, the piece of lightweighting, is emotion. Right, that's why you would get a car like this, is to feel something. That maybe it's just an extra pause when you're stopping there, going to the car. You want to look at it a little bit longer because it's beautiful, but all of your senses need to be engaged to like bring that emotion into the journey that you've just taken. So as Daniel says, it's a tactility piece. It's to do with how the vehicle feels, what it does when you're in it. The sound is a really important part, as we said. Actually, Daniel, you do your story about the Roadster.
Yeah, so we used to combat that kind of thing about sound. So you know the Dark Knight, the film Christian Bale.
Yeah.
So Bat Cycle,
The Batmobile? Yeah.
the like motorcycle Bat Chopper.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
actually
okay.
recorded the motor of a Tesla Roadster for the sound of that.
What?
So that turbine, and actually the Tesla Roadster, when you used to put your foot down, had this like turbine sound. So it was like lifting off in like an aircraft, and they slowly have taken that out, right? So the original Tesla Roadster, when you put your foot down, there's like like this high pitched whine, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And then they've engineered that out because they saw it as a bug. But actually, I think it's a feature, right? Like the sound. I mean, some of these motors, they'll do 20,000 RPM, and think, right? You've got like 300 kilowatts flying. Like if 300 kilowatts goes through your house, that's like a lightning strike. It's not like lightning strike, but it's a serious amount of electricity. When that goes in a motor, it creates so much energy and so much torque and so much power. Like it creates a sound. So we don't want to hide that, right? Like that's the characteristic. Like we talk about authenticity, it's a characteristic of car that we want to highlight and bring in, and not create some like fake sound. Like the car makes sound. Let's just amplify that and kind of make it.
Some of our engineers, super smart. They're looking at how they use the harmonics of that motor to actually increase or change that sound. So it is an authentic sound from the motor that is not synthetically created or anything else, but adds that extra theatre. So yes, love the question. We always enjoy answering it. I think the best way to answer it is sit in the car and experience that and tell us that you miss the sound of anything else that you were expecting, because we're going to give you something more.
Well, you brought me into my next question of sitting in the car. Your seats, I'm guessing, are built in order to save weight. Is that correct? Are they just cushions that are kind of built into the car, or is there a real seat component?
Yeah, again, that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So, we'll have different versions of interiors that we ultimately bring out. Most likely it will be a regular seat configuration, right? Like, because it's the easiest thing to do. It's one of the lightest things you can do. And it's not a problem we have to solve. So we can go and buy really, really good seats off the shelf that are lightweight, that fit with our brand characteristics, and just sit in the car. So, and do a level of customization with it that make them cool and unique to our brand. But there are so many challenges and engineering issues to resolve. We want to minimize those where we can. So seats are an example of them. So they will just be regular seats, but they'll be racing focused and brand focused and within the type of car as well, so that they'll feel right.
It's interesting you asked that question, because we've been trying a few out recently, because I think for us, comfort is a really important part. We're not building an out and out track car. Now, I think if you just stick carbon fiber seats in there without any padding, that's not going to be the thing you want to drive around at the weekends to go to the nice restaurant in or along the coast. So comfort's a really important part, and there are some really, really great options that we can put in the car.
And Mark and I are different sized gentlemen as well, so we need to make sure it fits. Different driver characteristics, right?
Daniel's saying I'm really short, and I'll take it.
Dang, dude.
Mark is more toned than me, so I fill out the seats a bit more than Mark would. Yeah.
We are both the 54th and the 86th percentile between us, perhaps.
I was gonna say, speaking of look differences between you guys, what are the look? I mean, I know the look differences between the Speedster and the Roadster, but like, what's internally different between the two cars? I know that the Speedster it doesn't have the top. Can you go in, like, can you add a top to it, or what does that look like?
Speedster is as you see it, right? So
okay.
There's some interesting things we're looking at around driver visors potentially and things we can introduce, but the Speedster is exactly as you see it. It is a raw driver's car. So it is designed around beauty, it's designed around lightweightedness, and it's designed around being experiential, right? Doing 100 miles an hour in this will feel like doing 250 miles per hour in like a Bugatti, right? Like it will be an experience.
Yeah.
So think about that kind of raw Spartan vehicle. It's a driver's car. It's more a driver's car than most ICEs, right? Because ICEs have all these driver assist features and AI corner steering and all these things that kind of disconnect you from the steering wheel pedal, right?
Right.
The Speedster will have a steering wheel and a pedal and the road, and that's it, right? Like if you've had a tough day at work, or you just want to go for a drive, or whatever it is, you get in this car and you will be like cemented in the moment. That's what the Speedster is for, right? And the Roadster is a more that kind of Spartan feel of the vehicle will follow through into the Roadster. So it's not going to be super heavy and super luxurious with all the features you want. It's a driver's car, but there'll be more options. There'll be more things you can choose on the interior. It will have windscreen wipers because it will have a windscreen, right?
Right.
These kind of things you'd expect in the car. If it's raining, it's probably better being a Roadster than the Speedster. Right. So, but it's not going to go all the way to, again, we fundamentally disagree with where most sports cars are today, which is almost looking at how you can disconnect the driver from the experience with computer wizardry. We will have incredibly tuned suspension, will have a low center of gravity, small center of inertia, and the thing will just drive. And that's going to be where our focus is.
What's the drivetrain?
Yeah, I mean, you can very quickly get into scope creep with a drivetrain, right? So we think 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds is plenty quick, right? Until 10 years ago, very few cars could do that
Right.
as a 0 to 60 speed. And so actually, we think that's the right speed. And so the focus on the drivetrain again is around simplicity, right? It's around what is the lightest, most reliable, most interesting, but commercially available powertrain to make that driving experience happen. So, the feature of the car, like when you move into electric vehicles, the powertrain quickly stops being the feature. And for us, even though it's something we are super conscious of, and like our selection of the powertrain is really looking at, again, those weight, performance, power characteristics, it's around like what's almost not in the powertrain, right? Like, because think if you remove things from it, so again, typical view, sports car, how do we add loads of things in to make the powertrain amazing? Whereas for us, if you take a powertrain from 200 kilograms down to like 40 kilograms, that completely transforms how that vehicle behaves, and that becomes the defining feature of it, right? That lightweightedness or featherweightedness of your powertrain. So it's how do you take things out and look at modern technology actually to create a minimalist powertrain that gives you more space, more weight, and things back. And we kind of learned that from Lucid, right? Like,
Yeah.
Lucid is minimalist. It removes things from the powertrain. It's super lightweight. It's super energy dense. It's super powerful. Like, that's where our thought comes from, a powertrain as well.
So where's the battery situated? Is it like in the rear? Is it centered? Like is the power going to just rear wheels, all wheels?
In the floor, right? So underneath the driver. So the battery casing and the battery modules will sit right below the driver. So you have insane insane center of gravity, right? Because it's all right below the driver, and your balance on the vehicle is insane because it all sits beneath the wheels, between the wheels. So you're kind of like center of inertia is tiny. Think like a ballerina with her leg in, whereas every other sports car, even mid-engine sports cars, the battery raises your center of gravity. So we're looking at as low as you can and as tight as you can with all your powertrain components, because you just get no one has built something like this, right? That has those characteristics in this weight class.
Like the thing with weight is not only is the mass important, but where you actually stick that mass as well has a huge impact, of course. I always remember, and look, I love the Tesla Roadster, right? That's a big reason why we are here today. But I remember someone driving it once and describing it to me as it's like your Usain Bolt running with a backpack full of batteries. Because the way all of the weight in that car was positioned, it was a super quick car, but all the weight was quite high up actually in the vehicle and all behind the driver's seat and the battery pack. And I think when people think about electric vehicles, a lot of the time it's missing that fun, that emotion, that dynamism because they are super heavy, right? Most electric vehicles are really, really heavy. Nobody has yet to experience really what having a sub 1,000 kilo, I can't do the pound conversion, gentlemen, I'm sorry, but sub 1,000 kilo vehicle, but then having that weight not up high or positioned in a motor that sits kind of mid of the vehicle behind the rear wheels, but actually, as Daniel says, super low. That changes everything. And I think that's going to be something really exciting for people to actually experience, which is not only lightweight, but well positioned, really critically thought out weight placement in the vehicle as well.
Yeah, it's less than a ton. The Speedster is. It's about like 1,973 pounds, which is extremely light. I drive a Mustang, which is like at least double that.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, that is crazy. What will the actual if we're allowed to talk about it, I'm not really sure. If we're not able to, it's fine. But what is the actual material like that you guys are using around the frame of the car?
Bonded extruded lightweight aluminium chassis. right? The chassis is like under 60 kilograms. So, right, it's crazy light. Actually, that's part of the unique DNA is using this bonded extruded aluminum chassis, something that British lightweight sports cars are known for, and your exterior is composite. So, yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. Is the Speedster and Roadster? We were trying to figure it out yesterday. They look very similar in the body type. Is it basically the same like frame, but then the top is gone on the Speedster, or is there any other differences like from the outside?
We will carry through as much as we can from the Speedster into the Roadster. I think
Okay.
from a design perspective, we nailed a vehicle that translates well in both forms. It's a really cool Speedster car. It's a really cool Roadster.
Yeah.
And carrying as much through from one into the other just helps us bring that program to market quicker. It helps us learn from the first vehicle we put on the road. So yeah, it's a lot of carry through from Speedster into Roadster.
Yeah.
And as far as the manufacturing goes, are you guys doing both simultaneously, or are you gonna pump out the 150 Speedsters and then start doing Roadsters?
Speedster is going to be the first vehicle that we make. So the first 150 cars, and that's what the Speedster will be limited to. They will look to go into production and start delivering those vehicles next year. And then we move into Roadster at that point.
Personally, which one do you guys think? Like, if you, I mean, you guys might get them both, you know, but like, what's your like? Which one would you want to, have? I feel like it's a Speedster, right? It's got to be the Speedster for you guys.
Right. That's the same conversation I've had with a few customers, which is if you want one quickly, get the Speedster, have that, and then have a Roadster if you need to add to that for the winter. I mean,
Yeah.
the reason we've stuck with the design is I think we're really lucky, right? The guys at Avant that we work with to produce the vehicle have done a great job in capturing that 60s beauty and managing to get it into both vehicles. So, yeah, I mean, our recommendation, of course, is take a Speedster now, and then a year or so later, get yourself into a Roadster.
What? And Speedster's unique, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it will be to the electric sports car industry what the Model 3 was to the rest of the market. Like, this is a plant your flag, changing how the earth feels about sports car. 150 we made, and then it's done. We'll keep supporting that car for at least 100 years, right? So as an OEM, we believe in immortality. So that car will stay on the road, right? Those 150 cars, 100 years from now, will be driving around and appreciating in value. So the Roadster is going to be series production. So it's going to be cool, right? We're going to have limited edition of those, the autograph luminary editions as well.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's only going to be 150 of these in the world. And that makes it rare air at that
Forever?
price.
Like there's all time, there's only going to be 150.
150.
Wow.
And if you care about collecting, or you care about standing out, or you care about like a real driver's car, that's what the Speedster is. So yeah, I know that like Speedster's the coolest car we're going to make anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I would say visually, its cousins would be like the McLaren Elva or like the Ferrari Monza SP2, like cars that are over $3 million. So at your guys' price range, to have something that visually looks like that is groundbreaking, and I'm sure everyone's gonna want it.
Yeah. And it's way lighter, which is what is crazy,
Exactly.
And when it's gone, right? And we've done that on purpose to make a point. It's like the people to get these cars are the people who like believe in our mission and who really see what we're doing, not the richest people. When those 150 cars are gone, doesn't matter how much money you have, right? Or how many cars you have in your collection, cars are gone. So, we won't do them again, right? It's sold out. And then sure you can get a Roadster, but and that's, we like that, right? We could charge a lot more for these cars and we could sell more. We just don't want to, because there's swagger in selling out, right? And there's swagger in charging what we need to charge for it and not making it a like billionaire's plaything, right? It's a different kind of car company.
Yeah.
I think the world has probably got enough multi-million-dollar hypercars out there that aren't being driven, that only a few people have access. So we don't need to add any more.
And it's just not aspirational, right? Like, again, look at the car. Like when I was, a BMW M5 used to cost like $90,000. Now they cost $170,000, right? And this is adjusted for inflation. And like these cars creep up and they become something only like the super mega rich can have. And it just stops them being even aspirational. Because like even when I was younger, the cars on my wall, you didn't have to be a billionaire to buy them. Now the cars that people talk about, these exotic hypercars, are $2 million, $3 million, right? And they're sold out before they even get out there. So we're not building cars for those kind of people, right? We're building cars that if you work really hard, you have a really good bonus or something you've been saving for and treating yourself for retirement or for something else, that's like, you can get one of our cars, right? Like that's really important for us as well. I mean, they're not cheap, right? Like £65,000 is a lot of money, but it's a hell of a lot less than £300,000, right?
Speaking of the hypercars, have you guys seen the McMurtry Sperling?
Yeah.
What's your guys' take on their like fan-based downforce?
It's crazy, right? I saw it at Goodwood, and it's a weapon. I mean, that car is such a weapon. Yeah.
It's so wild. I feel like it would suck up something from the road though if you took it out like on our roads or something, Oliver. You know what I mean? Get some roadkill in there. That'd be a problem. But it is pretty cool though. I thought that was crazy yesterday. I watched the video of it, and it's pretty insane to see where we're going in the car industry. And Mark, you're even talking about flying cars someday. Do you think that's a possibility?
Wow, what a question. Are we going to have flying cars? I think probably, technically, we already do, right? In China, you can see them now. There are a lot of press taking trips in autonomous flying vehicles, the quadricopters or eVTOLs, I guess, as we call them. Maybe a bigger question is, do we want them? Are they the right thing for us for transport? I'm sure they have applications, but we're just super focused on what we think is important, which is trying to change what we see as the big issue is reducing weight. And I think if we manage to do this, and hopefully others will then follow, then we're at least contributing to a future where we can have flying vehicles if that's the direction we need to go in.
Yeah. I don't know if flying vehicles would even really be better.
Brayden, would you go in one? Would you go in an autonomous flying vehicle from where you are now to work?
No. Well, okay, wait. If I was the only one though in the air, maybe. You know what I mean? That's the problem. It's like if you get everybody up there in the air, dude, you crash, you're toast, you're falling. Like
there's planes too.
There's planes, dude. You're probably gonna have like air traffic control through a car, which is just a whole other aspect. It's like. Yeah, I like what you guys are doing a lot better. Something more realistic. I'll definitely cop a Speedster before a flying car, for sure.
And you know what, like, for most of human history, or let's say for for automotive, right, you can split it into, let's say, 3 camps. So people who have to, like, they need the cheapest, most reliable way of getting from A to B, right? Like, these are your working class people who generally just don't care what it is. It just needs to get me from A to B and not break. You have then people who maybe like show off with their vehicles and they show as a way of like showing their form of that wealth. And then you have people who just genuinely enjoy driving. And I think slowly cars are being optimized for the first 2 and not for the latter. And so even when, we crack level 5 autonomy and there are things in the sky, I just want a steering wheel. And not buy a car from the 80s that if I crash in it, it is death trap, right? So, or something that like when I stop, to grab a bite, I leave and there's like a puddle of oil and I'm covering everyone in like fumes when I'm driving away. So something that's still cool, driver's car. And I think that outlives autonomy and flying cars, right? Because there will always be people horse ride now, you don't need to. There are a small section of people who do it for work, right? More in your part of the world than our part of the world. But now people do it because they enjoy it, and we're building cars for people who love driving, And I think that will never be a dying art. I think it will become quite unique because corporations are focused on the other things, right?
Yeah. I love that part of it. Yeah. People don't really think and people don't enjoy driving anymore, and I don't really either. I mean, I love my Saab, but it's like I'm not really like dying to go cruise in it or whatever. It's almost like a hassle to like drive from one place to the other, from A to B. But in a Speedster, it's like you look forward to it. You might just go do it just to do it.
Will it supercharge or use like a generic charger that you can have like cross country, or is it going to have a unique charger that's just going to be like available at home?
These cars are made to drive, right? So again, we've been here from, and then that story about running extension cords out of a hotel window is literally how I had to like charge the Tesla Roadster. And, you know, in the US, if that's the Tesla network, or if it's like Electrify America network, Europe, if it's the Tesla network or Ionity network, we're so like blessed with how great fast charging is already. And there is a minimum level of fast charging you need in a car. Smaller batteries mean you can charge quicker, which is great. So there's a minimum kind of rate we want to set in the car so that, you know, you can stop for a bite to eat, charge your car, and then get on the way again without like slow charging. So no, from the beginning, it needs to have fast charging. It's important.
Yeah, true. Because that's something that I feel like this car's. I mean, it's like you said, it's built to drive, but I feel like you'll see a lot more people kind of taking, you know, not like 300-mile road trips. You know, they can if they want, but it's like it's also a car that you can just kind of like drive around for no reason, you know, and then come back. So you won't even need to have to charge it like somewhere besides home, really, you know. I mean, at least it's like what I would do probably, but
like I think again, it's become so like driving has become so utilitarian. It's become such a thing of getting you from A to B that I think when people think about electric cars, they're like, I want to drive 1,000 miles, but I want to do it as quickly as possible. I'm like, why do you want to do as quickly as possible, right? Like,
yeah,
the interesting part is the journey, not the destination. And like, if like you've got 5 days, spend 3 days getting there and do some cool things en route. Don't just like teleport from A to B as quickly as you can. And I think when you live first, and again with the early Roadster, you had these interesting places where we charged, and I remember like charging at the start line in the TT grid in the Isle of Man, and we like had to unplug this thing and plug it in, and then we unplugged like some critical equipment, and then like 45 minutes later these guys came, we were like, why are you unplugging our equipment? We had to like run away. But if we didn't have that, like that's such a cool moment, right? You know, if we just like, oh yeah, we didn't bother charging because we had this 10,000-mile range, you lose these little kind of serendipitous moments where
yeah, like stories and stuff. Like that's like such a funny story, you know.
it's a journey, right? Like cars are that it's not about the destination, and this is a journey car, and the Roadster will be a car where you enjoy the journey, you know. But you need to have fast charging because you know, otherwise you are limited to the radius of, you know, the car.
Mark, do you ever see Longbow becoming a racing brand in like the electric field? Because you had some experience there, and I'm sure you still love racing. Do you ever see like you guys having your own team?
I mean, that would be the ultimate childhood dream, right? Brands Hatch, one of the cars coming down there, probably looking down at Dad now, though. Look, I think racing is always the pinnacle of what we try to do. But I think the best racing, or the most exciting racing for me, certainly when I was younger, was always the endurance racing. So I was lucky enough to be involved in a lot of 24-hour racing. And when you are pulling together not just one driver, but multiple drivers, lots of people within a team, at some points having to, entirely rebuild certain parts of the car, that's like a really exciting, engaging element of racing. But endurance itself is how a lot of the cars back in the very early days used to demonstrate their worth, right? So Mercedes doing a very long journey to show this is the reliability, this is how good our car is. We're certainly going to take inspiration from that in how we look to show some of our vehicles off. So we won't have any racing anytime soon because we're focused on delivering cars that are designed for enjoyment in the streets. That's how the car's tuned for. But we'll certainly do something interesting in terms of endurance.
Awesome.
I would love to say more clearly.
Do you guys have like a announcement event kind of planned, or like are you planning on like getting some cool track footage or street footage, or is there any like, I don't know, like you said you talked to Top Gear, would they be interested in like having your car for an announcement or something like that?
Yeah, like a showcase or something. Like,
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, what
yeah.
do you guys got?
I think taking a car to a car show and having a silk cloth and then revealing it has its interest, but I think that's a little overdone, and we want to do something different. So
Yeah.
yes, we'll be doing something very soon, but I think it'll be really relatable and hopefully engaging for our reservation holders that we have as well.
Yes.
We're a challenger brand, right? And Mark and I own the company, so we can kind of do things that we want to do and that are cool, and it doesn't have to go through some kind of corporate approval ladder and end up in the chairman's desk and then go through all different layers of marketing. We're like, we should do that. No one's done that. Let's do that. And I think that's going to be part of our DNA for quite some time, right?
Oliver, how are we doing on time, dude? We don't want to take too much of you guys' time. If you guys,
Yeah, we're at an hour. We can start wrapping it up if that's cool with them.
yeah, I don't know. I think we pretty much touched on everything. I'm just excited to see like you guys get in the market with other electric vehicles, and I don't know. I think it's just cool. Like I've never really like you said earlier in the podcast. Like it's just electric vehicles. I feel like a lot of people are having a hard time like getting on board with them. You know, and it's like people think it takes away from. Ironically, people think it takes away from the driving experience, but you guys are proving them wrong. Like you're bringing back the driving experience, but it is an electric vehicle, which I think is like the perfect combo. And so I'm really excited to see this come to life, and it would be awesome to see you guys like do some when you guys come out with some marketing stuff. I'm excited to be repping your guys' brand. Yeah, I mean, anything else you guys want to say to the fans out there that want to buy a car from you guys?
Just thank you, right? Heck, when you start a journey like this, it's not easy, and you never know until you show people the cars what they think, right? And we've had such a great response to it, and I think you almost universally, whether it's like gearheads or petrol heads or sustainable evangelists or tech like I think across the board, I think people get what we're doing. So thank you, and we're gonna do what we say we're gonna do, right? Like
Yeah.
we know how to do it, and we've got the support now from reservation holders and investors, and we're just excited to the two of us to drive that car and show what we can do.
Yeah.
And I do have a solid ending question. What are you guys' daily drivers right now? Or if you guys have multiple cars, like what cars do you drive right now because you can't yet drive the Longbow?
Sadly, nothing at the moment. So using a
Get a
lot of
bike.
public transport to get around. Maybe I should get out a little bit more often than I do. But no, certainly very much looking forward to having one of our cars and sort of running around on the test prototypes for sure. But as I said at the beginning of the call, I'm really into my bikes as well still. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
some really good electric bikes to come out under that sort of
Oh, yeah.
lightweightedness piece as well. But yeah, look, certainly 1000cc sports bikes are definitely locked inside of me for the rest of my life somehow.
Yeah, you don't have the luxury of second cars when you're launching a company, right?
Yeah.
So we have a family car. I've got 3 kids, and then Mark and I get our adrenaline kicks on 500cc motocross bikes. That's how we get our adrenaline kicks. So the Speedster's quite tame compared to where we go, and yeah. But looking forward to driving our cars, owning our cars, and representing, right? Like in many ways, we built this car company for the cars that we want to have. We designed the cars that we want and that we want to drive, and yeah, let's see if other people want to drive them as well.
Yeah, dude. I can't even imagine how awesome it's going to be when you guys can just get in the driver's seat of the car and take it for a spin. Like that is something that I just feel like not many people get to experience. Like you guys created it, you know? Like it came out of your mind and it's moving at like crazy speeds, so swift. It's just like, and it looks great. that's just gonna be an insane feeling when you guys get to do that. And you got to film it so we can see it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Brad, don't worry. We'll definitely be filming it, because a quick story for you. Launching Tesla in the UK, the first ever test drive of a Model S. We had 2 of them in the country. I'd waited 6 months for these 2 sort of first early vehicles from the US to arrive. And the first customer turns up in his lovely new Ferrari as well, gets out of it. Obviously a confident driver, or so he thought. And we got about 300-400 meters up the road, and he stuck it into the side of a truck. So whilst there's a lot of excitement in driving our first car, there's always that thing in the back of my mind as well that says it won't be Daniel doing it.
Yeah, Mark isn't allowed to drive these cars.
So crazy.
Yeah,
That's hilarious. Dang, dude.
yeah, it's crazy thought. But you know, when we're building, right? We start, as you said, right? As you started something, and at some point the car comes, but like we're so focused on everything else, it's gonna be here quicker than we know, and that'll be a real moment. Often you don't take moments to celebrate how far you've come or what you've achieved. Like it's an undeniable moment, right? When you get in a car and drive it, right? Like objectively, it is an achievement. So yeah, it's gonna be cool.
You're right though, but it's like hard. It's like undeniable in that moment that like that's a huge moment for you guys. But it is hard to like get out of that working mindset. That's like you're always critiquing yourself. You know, I mean, this is some of my experience. Like I'm always like I feel like sometimes it's hard to find the final product. You know, but with a car though, like you just gotta really embrace yourself in the moment, and like it's undeniable. Like just a great crazy experience when you guys are gonna be able to drive that. But yeah.
We can't drive it too.
Oh, dude.
One day. It might have to be like 30 years with like an extremely used one, but we'll get in one.
Yeah. But they'll still be here in 150 years, so we're good.
Exactly.
You're going to hand it down to your grandkids.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. Oh, man, that would be insane. And then they'll listen to this podcast and be like, wow, that's crazy.
I think we want to be able to share this with, and that's, it's why we've done your podcast as well. We want to share this with as many people as possible. Again, our mission to change how the earth feels about sports cars. We need as many people to hear about it as possible. And I think it's with any product, you're saying, Braden, about the experience of driving it for the first time. It will be a really cool moment for sure. Especially as I heard someone say the other day that it's the hard work that people don't see that counts the most. And there has been a lot of hard work, as with everyone that you have on your podcast that's building something that we're all doing late at night, over the weekends, that nobody actually gets to see. That means that we're going to get to have that experience. So yes, very much looking forward to it.
And thank you for your support as well, right? Like this makes a difference, telling your audience about this at this stage, and we look forward to, on a regular basis, maybe coming back and talking about like how we're actually doing what we said we did. Yeah, really appreciate you taking the time and researching it and being interested in our company. So thank you as well, guys.
Of course.
Oh yeah, and same goes for you guys. We really appreciate you guys like coming on here and showing your support with this podcast. It means a lot too, and that'd be awesome if you guys come back on. We do a little update. That'd be great.
Dude, I want to film some content with the real car one day. If there's ever that possibility, we will fly out, and that'd be so cool. Make some awesome cool videos with you guys, like in person. So cool. But yeah. Thank
you guys. Thank everybody for listening to this. You Start Something. Another great show. Some very special guests today. And check them out. Check out their website,
longbowmotors.com.
longbowmotors.com. And thank you, Mark and Daniel, for coming on the podcast. I really enjoyed the conversation. And thank you guys, everybody, for listening. Have a good one.